All right, hold up. A Fred Warner return this season? I don't want to get hopes up falsely for anyone. I'm not in that business, but just trying to cover things as accurately as possible. And John Lynch just spoke on KMBR, and he was asked point blank if a return this season based on a possible Fred Warner timeline would be a possibility. And John Lynch did not deny it. And John Lynch also said, we've got to meet with the doctors. They're coming into the 49ers building this week, and then they're going to set out a timeline. Kyle Shanahan also didn't firmly deny a return. For Nick Bosa, it has been ruled out. ACL not happening. But in the case of Fred Warner, this was an ankle fracture and an ankle dislocation. And I said this at the very start. If there's not ligament damage, if the ligament damage is not too severe, then you could talk about a faster timeline than something where a ligament damage is obviously present. So the 49ers have not ruled anything out. They're going to be talking to doctors. Matt Barrows did talk to a couple orthopedists. Matt Barrows, my former coworker at the Athletic, and they were talking about a 4-month timeline. If you applied 4 months to right now, it's October 16th. You'd go November 16th. December 16th would be 2 months. January 16th would be 3 months. And then February 16th would be right after the Super Bowl, 4 months. 3 months also, according to Matt and the orthopedist that he talked to, if this is just bone damage, right? If this is the fractured ankle, dislocated ankle without the ligament complications, 3 months wouldn't be out of the question. So that would be a month sooner, January 16th. It basically sounds like the Super Bowl, if the 49ers were to make it, would be an unlikely yet somewhat possible timeline for Fred Warner. Now, again, I'm not here to get hopes up. I'm here to report what we're dealing with, and this is an evolving situation. The 49ers have to meet with the doctors. Warner underwent his surgery at Stanford. It went well. John Lynch was able to talk to Fred on the phone when he was recovering back at home yesterday. Obviously, some of the best in the world performing this surgery, and he was able to get it done in his backyard, which is nice. Didn't have to fly to LA, fly anywhere else to get this done. And it was done quickly as well. And we'll see moving forward. One thing that John noted on KMBR this morning is that whatever timeline you put out there in front of Fred, he's going to try to beat it. And let's also be very clear that Fred Warner had played in 132 out of 133 career games. And that in and of itself is an impressive physical feat, because he obviously was going through stuff during more of those games than we probably even know. We do know that he actually played through a broken ankle last season. Like, there was a fracture on his ankle, one dislocated, but there was a fracture, and he played through it for 3/4 of the season. There's other stuff that I'm sure Fred Warner was dealing with, but he's as close to being made of rubber as there is in the NFL. To be able to play 132 out of 133 games at a linebacker position in this league, there's something special about the way that you're built. If there's something special about the way that you're built, there's a chance that your injury timeline, the recovery timeline, is going to be quicker than the average person. Also, professional athletes have access to the very best rehabilitation tools. They also have access to immediate surgery. Fred Warner suffers the ankle fracture dislocation, gets on the plane home from Tampa, and is at Stanford Hospital within hours, essentially, to get this surgery done. So they're able to pop this thing back in place on the field, probably, and then go through the fracture correcting surgery very, very quickly. Now he's going to have access to the very, very best technology. 49ers and the doctors will meet. And long story short, both Lynch and Shanahan have not firmly denied a 2025 return. Matt Barrows, who spoke to the orthopedist, said, well, maybe 4 months, which would make the Super Bowl an outside possibility for Fred Warner if the 49ers were to reach it. And there also was some hinting of 3 months if he's really going to beat this timeline, as Lynch on KMBR today said that Fred Warner would try to do. So just tossing it out there. What would you think of a Fred Warner return? What did the 49ers made the Super Bowl without Fred Warner's help? That would be right, probably on the shoulders of Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Aiyuk. Brandon Aiyuk, who's working out again during John Lynch's KMBR interview today. Why don't we move this update to everything else? Brandon Aiyuk, Mac Jones, and more. So last week, Brandon Aiyuk, while Lynch is on the phone with KMBR, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm looking at Brandon Aiyuk right down there. He's looking out the window of his GM office on the field, and Brandon Aiyuk was putting some work in. This week, same thing happened. There was some fabricated drama in between those 2 points, but we carry forward. One other thing that we've learned here over the past few days is that Kyle Shanahan is casually tossing around week 8 as a potential return marker for Brandon week 10. I misspoke. Week 10 as a potential return marker for Brandon Aiyuk. Now, that is not the exact target date. The 49ers have not yet set one, or at least publicized one. But week 10, which would be the Rams game, could be when we see Brandon Aiyuk at least back out at practice for the 49ers. Now, wouldn't that be something if he'd be back for the Rams game? But I think that the return to crown all returns would be Fred Warner running out there through the tunnel for the Super Bowl. I mean, at that point, I mean, if there's anything, like, I'm starting to agree with the people who think the 49ers might be cursed with some of these injuries, because I mean, it's hard to explain everything that's happened from the quarterbacks in 2022. I mean, losing all of their quarterbacks, literally all of their quarterbacks, and at the worst possible time in the NFC Championship game, to the record amount of money on IR in 2020, and then again in 2024, to how this season has started, losing both Nick Bosa and Fred Warner. I mean, that's a lot for the 49ers to deal with. But if there is some kind of curse, if there's some kind of hex on the 49ers, how does it get undone? Well, it gets undone by having Mr. Iron Man himself, who also was part of the curse, getting hurt, right? It ends with him somehow defying all odds and coming back this season, with the 49ers somehow getting a few greasy bounces and enough elite offense to get to the Super Bowl, and having Fred Warner charge out of the tunnel to Super Bowl. I will predict it now. If Fred Warner is back for the Super Bowl, the 49ers will absolutely win that Super Bowl. There will be no question about that. You could bookmark this. If they make it to the Super Bowl and Fred Warner comes back, that is the end of the injury curse. San Francisco is winning it. When he's running onto that field, you can get chills right now just thinking about it. Sorry, I told you I was not going to give you hope. It's like just following this logic to its conclusion. If he's running out there to the Super Bowl, then the 49ers are going to win that. Anyway, enough about that this morning. There's an article up on the San Francisco Standard that I wrote yesterday on Eddie Pinero and the 49ers math to make it to the Super Bowl. Actually, speaking of that math, we're going to take a quick peek at it right here. This is part of the article on the Standard, which is linked in the description. As you can see here, this is expected points added in each phase of the game per game. Offense, defense, special teams. Blue is above average. Red is negative or below average, so you'd rather score in the blue. If any given row, so that's horizontal, adds up to more than 0, if it's in the positive, the 49ers had a very, very good chance at the very least to win that game. They're very likely to win that game. As you can see here, the offense it started off really good against the Seahawks and the Saints, and it's been middling outside of the Rams game ever since, negative 5.4 points against the Bucs. The defense started off good against Seattle, but has not had an above average performance since, and it's completely fallen off a cliff over the past 2 games. Understandable with both Fred Warner and Nick Bosa gone. But the 49ers math has changed because of the special teams. 4 out of 5 games since Eddie Pinero joined in week 2, they've been in the positives. Plus 2.5, plus 2.1, and then down here, plus 6.8 against the Bucs. It actually kept that game close. So, I mean, the 49ers, if they can continue delivering in the positives on special teams, the task is going to be to field elite offense. You're going to want to be near plus 10 on offense every game. When Brock Purdy and company return, I think that's a reasonable goal. Be plus 7 to plus 10 on offense. And then just don't have the defense fall off a cliff. I mean, maybe keep the defense at -7, -8. And if you're +7 to +10 on offense, then all it would take is positive special teams and you win the game. Anyway, just some food for thought. The article is up there on the San Francisco Standard. It's on Eddie Pinero. It's on him retiring his family. Like really, really good stuff. And dad doesn't have to work anymore. And maybe he can retire the 49ers' worries about their special teams, although they need to stop fielding punts inside their 5-yard line. All right. Time for a word from our very good sponsor. Regularly. I have to, so I could do all my swims in the San Francisco Bay to Alcatraz and back. And I've got to fuel myself properly in order to accomplish all of this. Well, it's important to ingest the right protein. That's why I'm so excited to team up with Transparent Labs, because their grass-fed whey protein isolate has made it really easy for me to hit my protein goals in a clean and healthy way. Trust me, this stuff works. After Transparent Labs sent me some to try for the course of a few weeks, I was really feeling a difference in my strength and the fuel necessary to not only attack the weight room, but also attack the water. And you know what? The best part about this is the variety, because personally, I get sick of having the same thing day after day. This protein comes in 14 delicious natural flavors. I can easily switch it up when I feel like having something new. And you can be confident that what's on the label is exactly the same as what's in your shaker, because Transparent Labs protein is third-party tested and informed choice certified. If you'd like to try the Transparent Labs grass-fed protein yourself, well, you're in luck. Just hop down into the description, click on the link, or scan the QR code right on the screen. Transparent Labs is giving away a free protein starter pack right now. 5 different flavor samples in that pack. Trust me, check it out. You will be very, very happy with the quality of this product, and you'll be happy with the diversity of flavors. QR code on the screen, link in the description. Make sure you check it out. All right, yeah, make sure you check it out. You can rewind a little bit to see that QR code. I was actually just in the Bay this morning. It wasn't that cold, actually. I mean, I think I'm used to it at this point, but it was a great way to start the day at 7 a.m. And then we listened to John Lynch at 8, and now we're sitting here in the 10 o'clock hour, ready for a nice Thursday. I mean, the Bengals are playing tonight. They're playing the Steelers. And why is that important for the 49ers? Well, the 49ers, they're in on Trey Hendrickson. They're interested in trading for Trey Hendrickson. At the moment, though, the Bengals are not being very smart, and they think they're going to go all in with their current team, which is on, 5 straight losses at this point? I think that they're, 4 straight. I think it's 4 straight. It's about maybe going to be 5 straight tonight. See what the spread is tonight. They've got the Steelers, which is a division game. If they lose this one, you could really, really start to see the Bengals rethinking their strategy. The 4-1 Steelers are 5.5-point favorites. It is in Cincinnati, though, tonight, so there is home field advantage there. Hendrickson has been dealing with a back issue, but it is not considered to be a serious one that can derail his season. In fact, he was day-to-day this week, so we'll see if he does play tonight. I'm more interested in the result of the game because, according to Tony Pauline, the 49ers, Colts, Eagles, and Cowboys are all in the market for Trey Hendrickson should he be available at the deadline. If the Bengals lose today, they fall another game behind the Steelers, and they're 2-5, and it's 5 straight losses for Cincinnati. They've got the Jets next, and I think the Jets, I mean, despite the fact that they're 0-6, have you guys seen how bad Have you guys seen how bad the Bengals are? I know that we cut out there just a second. I don't think we lost anybody. Hopefully you guys are all still aboard. But the Bengals are absolutely terrible. I can even open up the team tier chart. Mike, can you send me the Ben Baldwin team tiers? Be easier for Mike to send it to me than for me to be digging it up right now. But the Bengals are in trust me when I say this, and we'll see it here in a second once Mike is able to get it over. Oh my God. We had 666 people in the chat the second that the camera cut out. That's not good. But now we have more. So I think we're insulated now. The Bengals are like in a similar spot as the Titans as far as team efficiency goes. And the Titans just fired their coach. Now the Titans are also deciding whether or not they want to be in full sell mode. I saw the other day that they still maybe want to keep Jeffrey Simmons around. Well, fair enough. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons is a really good player. The Trey Hendrickson situation, though, is different because the Bengals have already failed to re-sign him to a long-term deal. Like that, they tried to this offseason. They lowballed him. They didn't want to pay him market rate. It didn't work out. So they were able to really just put a Band-Aid on it and sign him to a one-year contract with a pay raise. But Trey Hendrickson is scheduled for unrestricted free agency come March. And if he doesn't sign whatever the Bengals put in front of him, he is going to unrestricted free agency. I mean, I suppose they could franchise tag him, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think that this is a situation where Trey Hendrickson has a lot of the cards, and the Bengals, if they want to receive anything in return for Trey Hendrickson, if they are not contenders, and I don't think they are contenders, just take a look at this right now. I'm going to share the screen with you to show you the team tier chart. If you're looking for Cincinnati up here, you're not going to find them. If you're looking for Cincinnati in the middle of the pack, you're not going to find them. Cincinnati is literally in the worst tier of football, and they're talking about wanting to go all in this season. It is a complete joke. Now, again, they could be moved off of that public-facing position. Maybe they're just saying that right now with a loss to the Steelers tonight. The Steelers are what? 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 tiers better than the Bengals. The Steelers have been a good football team this year. They're over there with the Seattle Seahawks. So they can be moved off of that position tonight. They could be moved off of it next week if they lose to the Jets. Like even the Jets, who are 0-6, are in a more efficient spot on this chart than the Bengals, just to give you an idea of how things are going. So 49ers, Trey Hendrickson. You know, if the 49ers can have Hendrickson because Bosa's not coming back, when that Super Bowl rolls around and Fred Warner comes charging down that tunnel, Hendrickson, Warner for defense wouldn't look bad for the 49ers. So crazy, crazy stuff. Mike Tomlin said something about Cleveland trading Joe Flacco to the Bengals. He said, this was just on Monday, Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a QB you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feeling. Okay, so Mike Tomlin's obviously old school. He doesn't believe in trading a quarterback within your division, especially if it's an impactful quarterback. I honestly have a hard time believing that Joe Flacco is a truly impactful quarterback. I know that Cincinnati was playing Jake Browning, so the situation was truly dire there. But their defense, like even their defense is getting worked right now, and that's with Trey Hendrickson in the mix for Cincinnati. So it's not like this team is some kind of like juggernaut up here. Like the Browns a couple years ago, speaking of them, were up in this corner, like terrible offense, but really, really good defense. That's not the case. You know, in fact, it's really interesting to me this year because the teams that are good in either offense or defense are not usually excellent. They're just average at best. And in the other phase of the game, you don't have any teams in the upper right. The closest that you have are the Rams and the Colts, but both, you know, the Rams are more of a defense-driven team and the Indianapolis Colts are more of an offense-driven team. But what you have is a lot of teams straddling the L right here, right? Do you see this L? The 49ers are, you don't want to be in the corner of the L where the 49ers, Cardinals, Eagles, and Bears are. So the 49ers are going to want to move their way up or to the right on the L. I don't know if they can move their way up. You know, a Hendrickson trade could help, but a Warner return for the Super Bowl could help. But that would not going to make this particular graph any different. But anyway, the Bengals are nowhere near any of that. They're hanging out here. So I don't think that Mike Tomlin should be worried about anything. I think he's probably just paranoid that he could lose on Thursday night. But Mike, calm down, beat the Bengals. We'll see if Trey Hendrickson's on the market after that. Speaking of the 49ers and, you know, depth and trying to keep on contending this season, they're probably going to have to do it with Mac Jones as their quarterback on Sunday. It is trending toward Mac starting. I know we covered this yesterday. The national media is now catching wind of it. The practice for the 49ers, I'm going to go to another one here in a couple hours, but practice for the 49ers on Wednesday featured Jones taking the bulk of reps that we saw, and Martinez working before Brock Purdy. So this was Purdy as limited as he had been the week of the Arizona game, right? When Purdy was out at practice, but didn't play, was Max starting against the Arizona Cardinals instead. Same type of setup at 49ers practice today. Purdy obviously limited. 49ers should play the long game with him. We talked about this. The second they beat the Rams, the calculus changed, right? So remember the week of the Rams game, he was sore coming out of the Jacksonville game, and it was clear that he hadn't played that Jacksonville game at 100%. So the thought was that the 49ers would rest him for the Rams game, and that would, everybody expected that to be a loss outside of the building. I'm not afraid to admit it. I mean, even after they won, they had a 2% win probability based on the advanced statistics of that game. So it was a miracle in LA, right? Well, we're going to call it the Mac Jones miracle in Inglewood. The 49ers, though, beat the Rams, which gave them tremendously good position within the division early this season. And it took the pressure off of rushing Brock Purdy back in a similar way to how he might have been rushed back against Jacksonville. Now, they didn't have a choice against Jacksonville because Mac Jones was more hurt than Purdy at the time. But Jones is healthier than Purdy right now. So you just have this runway that you can use, and you should use. You should play a long game because, again, if your goal as the 49ers is to take your logo right here and move it further to the right, and you can only do that if you have an elite offense moving forward. If your goal is to end up with these teams as one of the true Super Bowl contenders this year, even with a mediocre to bad defense, like you got to keep the defense where it's at, but you move over here. If that's the goal, then you need Brock Purdy. You need his mobility. You need his ability to extend plays. You need the magic that Brock Purdy's been able to create. I may upset some people when I remind them of this, but there has been no quarterback more efficient in the entire NFL since 2022, the year that Brock Purdy joined the league, than Brock Purdy. He literally tops the chart. He has brought efficiency. He's brought explosiveness. That has happened thanks to his off-schedule ability. Even this year, when you factor in that he's been playing with a toe injury, he scores significantly higher than Mac Jones, who's having a revitalization year, who's been good for the 49ers. His QBR, Purdy's, is significantly higher than Mac Jones's. So the 49ers can bring this offense to a much higher ceiling with Brock Purdy at the helm than with Mac Jones. But they can only do that if Purdy is 100% healthy or very close to it. So you've got to make sure that he has the runway to get healthy. And it's almost worth not having Brock out there, even if he's close against Atlanta, if it means that he can get to that 100% spot by the time that Houston or the New York Giants hit. Unfortunately, this is their last natural grass game until the Rams game. So if Brock's return is going to happen before the Rams game, which it looks like he's on track for that, Houston or the New York Giants is going to have to come on artificial turf. I don't think that's ideal for Brock Purdy or the 49ers, but I think sometimes you just have to roll with what the schedule is dictating. And in this case, it's dictating a return on artificial turf. We got some more stuff from Mike. Christian McCaffrey has 355 offensive snaps through 6 games. Brock Purdy, George Kittle, and Ricky Pearsall have combined for 372. That is absolutely wild. That's from Kyle Posey. What a great stat. 372 for Purdy, Kittle, and Pearsall combined. Kittle's going to be back this week, by the way. Christian McCaffrey has almost as many snaps by himself, and somehow the 49ers have kept this afloat offensively. That is a credit to Kyle Shanahan. Adjusted EPA of quarterbacks, Mac Jones ranks number 20. Brock Purdy is in the top 5. And that is even with the toe injury. They don't adjust for the injury. So should just give you a little bit of perspective as to what the 49ers are dealing with on that front. Anyway, busy morning. John Lynch talked a lot about Tatum Bethune today. I'll repeat this. I didn't think that Tatum Bethune was bad against the Bucks. I think that the bigger problem was actually D. Winters and Luke Gifford. And those are the two. That's the weak side and the strong side linebacker. Strong side guys only playing in base defense. Tatum is the one that's going to be on the field in essentially every single formation for the 49ers, unless they're playing some kind of crazy no linebacker look. But Tatum's not going to come off the field because he's got the green dot on his helmet. That's the radio in his helmet. So he's reprising Fred Warner's role. And I thought that Tatum actually played some good football for the 49ers. I don't think it was mistake-free, but the 49ers are really high on him. And I would caution people when they're evaluating this linebacker room and the trade market and how the 49ers keep the bottom from falling out of this defense. I would caution people to be looking at that weak side linebacker spot a little bit more closely. Because D. Winters was really damn good over the first 3 games. He's not been as good, and he's been picked on in the past game over the most recent 3. So I don't know if there's something wrong health-wise with D. Winters. I know that he had been on the injury report with a shoulder. I just do know the teams have been picking on him in the past game. And that's a very, very important data point to note. So if the 49ers cannot operate as a successful defense when their linebackers are giving up a lot in coverage, because they entrust their linebackers to cover a ton. So you saw it in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. Once Dre Greenlaw went down, Travis Kelce went crazy. You've seen it over the past 3 weeks against D. Winters, and this was even before Fred Warner went down. D has given up 51 receiving yards per game. That's a lot. Over the first 3 games, he gave up 16 receiving yards per game. So the 49ers absolutely have to find a way to make that linebacker position semi-effective in coverage, like just semi-effective. It can't be like Winters against the Rams where he was targeted 11 times and gave up 9 catches for, I think, 70 plus yards. And it's still unclear whose fault it was on the first touchdown for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, where the receiver came in motion and the 49ers just didn't pick him up down the right sideline. They were blitzing Upton Stout from the nickel. That could have been on Tatum Bethune for not relaying the information correctly, but it did seem like D. Winters was the closest defender to being able to trail the receiver and try to cover him down the sideline. So the 49ers have to be better there. And I think maybe the lesson is they've got to be collectively better as a defense. And that's what John Lynch was talking about too. It's not Fred's not there anymore, and he's the one directing everybody around. And he is the orchestrator. If he's not there anymore, collectively communication has to be better from the 49ers. The collective communication from San Francisco has to take a step up. And it's something that they'll have a chance to show on Sunday against the Falcons, probably from firmer ground than right after. You're in shock after Fred Warner went out last Sunday. Anytime a player gets hurt, and he was a big part of the game plan. You saw it with Deebo Samuel against the Packers in the divisional playoffs of the 2023 season. 49ers offense really struggled because that was going to be a massive Deebo game. Like he was going to be a huge part of the 49ers game plan. And he goes out early in the game, fell on top of the football. Remember, I think it was a rib thing for Deebo Samuel. Of course, the offense is going to sputter because they had practiced all week with Deebo Samuel as an integral part of what they were going to do. Fred Warner, it's not just practicing every week. You just feel that he's going to be an integral part of what you do. So as soon as he goes out in the midstream, you're scrambling big time. Like communication-wise, especially given how important that position is for everybody else, listening to orders, listening to the play call, and getting direction from Fred Warner. It was a big issue midstream for the 49ers. Now they've had more time. By the time Sunday rolls around, it's going to be a full week of prep for the 49ers. And you would think that they're going to be in a little bit better, more advantageous position to try to start filling these huge shoes. But don't forget, we talked about it top of the show. What if he does return this season? Hadn't been ruled out. But again, I'm trying not to get people's hopes too far up. Why don't we take a look at 49ers tackling stats, courtesy of SF Data Niners. It's like data miners, but data Niners. I think it's a nice little creative play on words. But he always has really, really good visual content. Here are the defensive tackling stats. Renardo Green has missed some. Fred Warner, I mean, he was having a hell of a season. Only one missed tackle for Fred. He was locked in. I mean, Fred was getting so much joy out of the 49ers wins. It really is gutting news, which is why I had to lead the show with what I did. You could have a little hope, right? There's nothing wrong with a little optimism, a little hope about Fred Warner's potential return timeline. Just crazy, though, looking the level at which he was playing. 51 combined tackles, so he's around the football at all times, and only a 1.9% missed tackle percentage. Winters is a little high. He leads the team with 6 missed tackles so far this season. You know, it's combined with the pass protection struggles. There's a concern there. There's a concern there for sure with D. Winters. Interesting graphic here, though, from SF Data Niners. While we're here, this is what I wrote about Eddie Pinero, 49ers kicker. So a couple years ago, he was able to retire his dad, Eddie Sr. Eddie Sr. was a professional soccer player who then went into construction after he played soccer. Eddie Jr., who is up on the screen, kicks for the 49ers, is someone with a soccer background, played soccer throughout high school. That was his primary sport. That was his only sport. Late in high school, almost by accident, he booted a field goal on the football field when, for some reason, he was out there and the coach noticed, oh my God, this guy can kick field goals. And Eddie Pinero soon took up field goal kicking. Like, he switched from soccer to football. His dad, Eddie Sr., would drive him around to all the camps, and he would be working with these specialists, and they'd be working before school and they'd be working after school. Wasn't that long before Nick Saban offered Eddie Pinero a scholarship. He committed to Alabama, then decided to stay closer to home. He went to the University of Florida, the Gators. And Eddie is, we've already seen it with the 49ers. He's very demonstrative. And he developed a reputation, like he was a fan favorite at Florida for how he was able to rile people up after he made some kicks. I mean, he brought some juice. Turned into like a cult hero at Florida. He's been in the NFL since 2018. He's obviously been a good kicker essentially throughout his entire career. Has he missed some? Of course, all kickers have. But it's now turned him into the number 2 ranked kicker all time in terms of field goal accuracy. And as he's risen, Eddie Pinero has not forgotten his family. He recently retired his dad about 2 years ago. He told his dad, "You're not working anymore. You've done so much for me. Now I want to make sure that you have the most comfortable life possible." Eddie even said he'd be okay living under a bridge as long as his parents are taken care of. Now, the really, really touching plot twist here is that Eddie Sr. had a heart attack about 2 months ago. So he's been not cleared to fly yet. So that his parents hadn't seen Eddie Pinero kick for the 49ers in person yet. They had to watch on TV in Miami. Eddie bought his parents a house 2 doors down from him in Miami a few years ago, by the way. So he hadn't seen his parents in a long time. The 49ers go to Florida to play Tampa Bay. His parents are able to make the 4-hour drive from Miami to Tampa and to watch Eddie kick. And Eddie literally said, "I was nervous." He said that my parents were there. Like, I was more nervous for this than the normal game because I don't want to let my parents down. Part of me feels like a little kid trying to get my parents' approval. And he went out and made 4 kicks out of 4. He's now 15 of 15 on field goals with the 49ers. Made his only extra point as well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and his parents were there to see it. What a moment. And I wrote about the moment up on the San Francisco Standard. So I'd really recommend that you go check out the article because we get into these personal backstories. Link is in the description. I could even copy and paste the link right now from the URL bar and put it into the comment section right here. So you can go check it out. It's in the chat section. I'll try to put it into the comment section and pin it up. So we will have that for you. Your support, signing up for the San Francisco Standard. You could also check out the protein that we put Transparent Labs a little bit earlier. Would be very, very much appreciated. So I'm going to answer a few questions, and then I'm going to head down to practice. But I'll keep this article up there so you can go ahead and check it out, sign up for the Standard, do all that good stuff. Again, Pinero has changed the 49ers math. And by that, this is part of the article. I'll put it up there. The 49ers math now is very different in that rightmost column. Special teams has been positive 4 out of 5 games they've had Eddie Pinero, who, by the way, called up Jake Moody to congratulate him after Moody hit the winner. Pinero repeated that Moody is going to be a good kicker for a long time in this league. But basically, you need every row to add up to more than 0. And if you're probably going to win the game if it adds up to more than 0. So against the Bucs, it was negative 5.4, negative 15.9 for offense and defense. That's basically negative 21.5 or so. 7 points gained on special teams didn't help the 49ers. They're still minus 14, and they lost the game by 11. Probably should have lost the game by more, but still, they're negative. They're in the negatives. Against the Rams, 11.1 on offense was eliminated by what they lost on defense. They're about 1.5 points down, but they gained 4.6 points on special teams. Literally won them the game against the Rams. Against Jacksonville, the 49ers offense and defense, both a little bit lower than Jacksonville. The difference, the punt return. They're minus 4.6 on special teams. Against the Cardinals, the 49ers were, just like the Jags game, were underwater, both offensively and defensively. The difference, plus 2.1 on special teams. Eddie Pinero coming through again for the 49ers. Against the Saints, they're plus on offense, plus on special teams. They beat the Saints. Against the Seahawks, it was really interesting. It was the inverse, right? Offense and defense were really good for the 49ers, 9.6, 4.4. That adds up to what? 14? Plus 14 on offense and defense. Special teams loses them 10 points. That was the Moody game. So they win by only 4. If they had the same special teams performance they had against Tampa, against Seattle, which I get is hard because Seattle's the number 1 special teams in the league, but just say that they did. If it's plus 6.8, the 49ers beat the Seahawks by 20, maybe 21. Three possession win against the number 1 DVOA team in football. That could be slightly depressing to think about. That's how good the 49ers were to begin this season, like before all of these injuries. They didn't even have everybody back in week 1 yet. I mean, Brandon Aiyuk not back, but this was a damn good performance they put up against Seattle, and it was immediate, right? George Kittle with the hamstring, Brock Purdy with the toe injury that happened late in that first half. It was almost immediate where the 49ers started to really lag, to start to limp. And it would continue throughout this season. I mean, Trent Williams also got hurt in that week 1 game. Remember Fred Warner, was dry heaving, almost vomiting when he got spiked in the stomach against Seattle? Maybe that was an omen of bad things ahead for San Francisco. But I'm telling you, the one thing that can reverse the curse is if Fred Warner recovers faster than anticipated. And it's not been ruled out. I don't want to say it's within the realm of possibility because it hadn't been ruled out. Matt Barrows talked to a couple of the orthopedists that said about 4 months. Okay, somebody tossed out 3, and John Lynch said that Fred is going to try to beat the timeline because Fred is Fred. I'll leave you with this. In 1997, Jerry Rice tore his ACL in week 1. I believe that was at Tampa Bay. Yeah, it was at Tampa Bay, wasn't it? Week 1, tore his ACL. Jerry Rice was back later that season. Monday Night Football against the Broncos. Now, the part of the story that is a little bit more negative is that he hurt his knee again against the Broncos. Then he was done for good. But the point is that the best athletes, like the Hall of Famers, Rice, Hall of Famer, greatest football player of all time, Fred Warner, future Hall of Famer, these guys have something a little special about them when it comes to potential return to play and timelines. And so we can't rule it out until it actually is formally ruled out. We know it's done for the regular season. Now, though, start to think about 3 months, 4 months, and well, we talk about ligament damage. We can talk about rehab. We could talk about technology. We can talk about all the resources that Fred Warner and the 49ers have. And it hasn't been ruled out yet. But Lynch and Shanahan and the doctors, they're all going to meet at the facility this week, and they'll set the timeline, and then Fred Warner can beat that timeline. But if they set the timeline at 6 months, if this is a longer timeline, well, then obviously, even if Fred Warner does some crazy rehab work, he's not going to get it. But if they set it at 4, again, 4 months from now is February 16th. The Super Bowl is not too far before then. So it's just something that's worth keeping in mind for the time being. All right. What does Mike have for us? We'll look at that later. Everybody, thanks for watching. That's your update. Check us out soon.